miss.
Good morning, miss.
Alaikum,
Good
ma'am. Good
morning, ma'am.
morning.
Walaikum assalam. I hope all of you are up, awake.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
I do not ask you to turn on your cameras, but I want all of you to listen at least. Like it's especially because of my place. I mean, my area. This place is infamous for its network connection. So if I turn on, even if I turn on my camera, I think the speed will uh, be slower. But just in case, if there is any interruption or if you face any problem because of my network, then just let me know. Okay. So in that case, I'll have to switch device. But let's see what happens. Okay, I think let's wait 1 more minute for more people to join. Uh, okay.
Ma'am, I have a
What's the
question
update of your
regarding the report.
Yes, Narisha?
Ma'am, in a lot of the online plays there are like a lot of details not mentioned. So I'm wondering like about the people who have participated or like the specific details like names. They're not there. Is that going to be a problem if I don't end up finding it?
Yeah. So good point. Mm, especially in case of online shows, it's very common that you might not be able to find out the cast. So who were the actors and actresses on stage? It's fine if you do not have it. Okay. So
Okay,
you
ma'am.
can add the point. You can add the point cast, and then you can just mention it that not mentioned. Okay. So that's going to be fine. No problem.
Okay, ma'am.
And for the characters as well, since you do not have the playbill, so for the characters as well, like only mentioning the major characters will be fine.
Okay, ma'am.
What else? What about the others? Are you done with writing your report?
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, Ikra?
It's about like there is this thing in the introduction which says the date and venue of the show you attended. So in online, what do you have to write in this case?
Okay. You go to the Google Classroom. Let me share the screen for you. I've already given this instruction. I hope it's visible. Is it too small? Should I zoom it?
Miss, it's visible.
Yeah. So in case of online, you need to mention date, insert date when you have watched it. I mean the date of watching the play online. Time, you need to insert the time as well, and then access. So the link of online viewing. Why is this important? Because it might happen that when you have watched it, that particular link was public or that show was there, but when I am going to access it, it might not be there. So you need to mention it. Like this happened in case of one of the adaptations of Dr. Faustus. In the last semester also, I could show that a particular adaptation to my students. It was there. But this semester, when I went for searching it, that particular adaptation was no more there. So this can happen, they can choose to, since they have no copyright, they can choose to take their video off or something. So for that, you need to insert date, time, and also give the link where I can go and access it. Okay. So basically, for the report, you have two sets of instruction. One is, well, let me go back. One is here under classwork. You have a set of instruction over here. This is basically for your report, how you're going to write it, and blah, blah, blah. And then in the stream, you have for your online, if you're viewing it online. Where is it? Yeah. If you're viewing it online, then the instructions are over here. Is it clear? Yes, Stila?
Hello,
Yes, I can hear you.
ma'am. I have a question. I have watched the drama in live in theater. So there's a part you mentioned that we have to mention actor's name and the characters they portrayed. So it's like, uh, do I have to mention the like actor's name, those who performed live?
So those who perform, they will fall under cast. So the
Okay.
cast list, and the characters are the characters of the play. So if you have both of them, I mean, if you have the playbill of the play, since you have watched it in
Yes.
person, you must have the playbill. So in the playbill, you are supposed to have that. So you can add it from the playbill. Okay?
So it's like I will mention the cast and character
The
details.
characters. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Also, ma'am, there's a part you say that we have to mention only the main characters. So I have, even though I have watched it live, but still I had to gather some information. So I searched in some sites in Google. So I saw there some are showing five main characters and some are showing three main characters. So I'm a bit confused about the main characters.
Okay. Now this can vary according to one's perceptions and perspectives as well, according to adaptations as well. Say for example, you watch a play where maybe the original playwright thought about having two major characters, but in the adaptation maybe the director, you know gave emphasis on two more major characters, and then you have four major characters. So it depends on the particular adaptation that you have watched. So you can go with your instinct. Depending on the adaptation that you have watched, you can consider, how many main characters are you going to talk about.
All
Okay.
right, ma'am. Thank you.
Like, I remember I watched uh, Prakshanath's Ochalayatham. So Ochalayatham is, one of the famous write-ups by Robindranath. But in the original write-up, Robindranath's main characters, they were all male characters. They were all men. But in the adaptation by Prakshanath, they all are female characters. So it's of course going to depend on that particular adaptation which you have watched. And over here, since the task is on watching, so it will vary. So it might happen that um three or four students are writing on the same play, but maybe they have watched different shows, so their content of the report will be different. Okay.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Yes, Anand.
Ma'am, there is a place where you said that we should write the genre of the play, but I'm not sure about the genre of the play which I watched because it is not tragedy or comedy or like I can't understand the genre. What should I do?
So yes, exactly what you have said me right now, write this in your report. It's a practical report. So if you're confused about the genre, you can write that as well. That some parts,
Okay.
yeah, seem to you that it was a tragedy, but some parts appeared to be comedy. Stila?
No, ma'am, I have no question. Sorry, it was mistaken.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Miss,
so
what
remember,
if,
yes, Miftahul.
Miss, what if it's not a tragedy or a comedy, but it's more like a social drama? Is that a genre? Like it's giving out a
That
social message and
mm-hmm. So like
describing a particular culture in our country and the bad effects
mm-hmm,
of that.
mm-hmm. So if you're not sure, like in case of drama, usually uh broadly the umbrella uh division or the umbrella divide for drama is basically tragedy and comedy, and then you have tragi-comedy. But if you think that no, it was more like a social commentary, a social drama or something, you can mention that as well. I mean, it's not going to fall exactly under the typical genres of drama, but what is important over here is your understanding. So if you think that it will fall more under a social drama, you can mention that. Like, say, for example, what we are doing right now, this is a comedy of manners, right? In the last class, we talked about the characteristics of comedy of manners. Today, when we will revise that again, we will see that, in terms of a normal comedy or say a romantic comedy, it's just a love story. But in terms of comedy of manners, it is a comedy, and then you also have social criticism, a lot of social criticism. In fact, most of, I mean, the reason behind or the motive behind writing The Way of the World was social criticism. We talked about satire in the last class. So, though it might happen that it is a social drama, but then again, you can, because of the particular elements, that is it arousing catharsis or not, or maybe it has some humorous dialogues or some comic relief, you can divide the particular drama as a comedy or a tragedy. But if you think that, okay, no, it's becoming very tricky and you do not know where to place it, then go with, whatever you understand. Okay. It does not have to be, I mean, whatever you say. One thing is this, that, this particular report does not have any wrong answer. I mean, whatever you bring on the table is right because this is your perspective. Say, for example, you have, I mean, you are staging a drama. Now, what light will you use? It's going to be, your choice. How are you reading that? It's also going to be your choice. So, what perspective and what idea you are gaining from that, it's completely yours. So, there is no wrong answer. But yeah, I mean, the major uh, the main reason behind giving this task was, to do it yourself and to understand and to read that particular drama or the particular performance by yourself. So, whatever you understand, just bring that on the table. Okay. Writing less than 1500 words will be a problem. So basically, the reason behind giving the word limit is because the contents that I've mentioned, that you need to include this things. If you include all these things, then it will technically become 1500. I mean, it is supposed to cross 1500, in fact. So 1500 is approximate. It can be a little less or more, but around 1500. Now, I told you 1500. If you write 1000, then that's very less. So, it has to be around 1500. Okay. So remember, your submission is tonight. I mean, by tonight. So exactly at 11:59. Exactly at 11:59, your submission will close. What? And then Your submission will close in both the platforms, in Turnitin and in Google Classroom as well. So remember that you must submit your paper at first in Turnitin and then in Google Classroom. And do not wait till the last minute. Exactly at 11:55, do not start submitting. Submit it before. Okay? And in case of the ones who were watching it online, you had an option of adding photos. In case of online, it might happen that um, you're talking about the stage or any particular scene that uh, caught your attention or that stood out for you. You can take a screenshot of that particular part and then add it. Well, it's optional. Photos are not mandatory. So if you want to, you can add screenshots of particular scenes as well in your report. Okay, so that's it about the report then. Um, Now, Google Classroom does not have the option of add work. Maria, I think you went to midterm. You need to go to um the assignment. Let me show it to you. So under classwork, you have uh two slots. One is midterm, and this is where you have submitted your midterm papers. And this is the theatrical performance. So 6 of you have turned it in already. The others have not. So this is where you need to submit your assignment. Okay. Hmm. What is the legal drama? Legal drama?
Ma'am, I don't know. I just found it online in some sites. They say that it is a legal drama, like talking about
Okay.
maybe judiciary things.
Hmm. What did you watch? Monkey Trial?
No, ma'am. 12 Angry Men.
Oh, 12 Angry Men. Okay, okay. Well, now the drama that we are dealing with for this course, as I mentioned, that it is briefly tragedy and comedy. You can mention legal drama as well. I mean, a lot of genres come after that, so you can mention that as well. No problem. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank
Now,
you.
another important thing is after you're done with this task, that is today's task, this report is of 10 marks. For your final term, you have two more tasks. One is the alternate assessment, where, as you know, that you'll have to come up with a production. So basically, in the next week, um, that is on Monday, the next class that you'll have, I'll give you the instructions for the alternate assessment. For this, you need to divide yourselves in groups and you need to start working for the production. So uh, for the production, since we are also supposed to go in person to the new campus on December, so the production is hopefully going to be in person, unless and until there are blockades or political unrest. If not, then we will have to do it online. But the preparation will start from next week and the preparation will start online. And then for the rehearsals and everything, we will wait till the new campus opens. So you'll get all the instructions in the next class. This is about the alternate assessment, and alternate assessment, your mark is 15, so it's a huge mark. And another announcement is about your presentation. So presentation is going to be a group presentation, and each group will have 5 members for presentation. And um, in case of presentations, you can think about the structure. The purpose of having 5 members is to serve the purpose of the content as well, like exactly the instructions that you had for essay type questions. So in one answer, you have 5 paragraphs. So in a group, when you're presenting, these 5 members can be seen as, you know, one paragraph. So each presenter gets to present one paragraph of the topic that you have chosen. So in case of choosing the topic as well, it's not limited to the 2 dramas that we're doing after midterm. It starts from the beginning, so you can choose the dramas that you have covered so far. So Oedipus, Faustus, and now The Way of the World, and then Death of Salesman. So you can pick from any of the dramas. So the instructions for presentation will also be given afterwards. Okay. So having said that, you'll also hopefully get your midterm script in the next week. So more activities and more work loading, so you can mentally prepare yourself for it. And uh, like if you're comfortable, you can also think about making the groups for the presentations. But yeah, all the details will be discussed in the next class. So I want you to focus on your report now, do the report submission, and after you're done with it, then we will, proceed to the other activities. So that's it about the activities and the report and everything. So having said that, let's go back to the lesson that we were doing. um let me just see. mm, Fatiha Haider.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Fatiha. So, Fatiha, what were the topics we covered in the last class? Do you remember?
Well, we discussed about the characters mostly, and the
Mostly about the characters.
no, I mean we talked about the plot and the characters, and
What else?
Relationship between those characters.
Mm-hmm. Only the characters. Did we just talk about the plot and the characters? We did not even complete the plot and the characters. But what was the major concern? What did we focus on for the last class, in the last class?
Relationship between those characters, ma'am, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy of manner, then characteristics of
Yes.
comedy of manner. Then you made a map, a character map, and you also discussed little about restoration era and the settings and the 5 acts and the genre.
Yes, Anand, thank you. So we started with the era, talking about Restoration era, what the Restoration era was like, and we also talked about what the Restoration theater was like. So, what do you remember from there? What was the Restoration theater like? Nodi, Miftaul Jannat Nodi, are you listening?
Miss,
Yeah, what was the Restoration theater like?
um, Miss, I don't remember. Sorry.
Nikita?
ম্যাম অ্যারিস্টোক্রেসি থাকবে আর হচ্ছে আম, s- uh, uh, more sophisticated romance and emotions. Um, ma'am,
Yes.
upper class basically um,
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, can I answer?
Mm, yes, Narisha, go ahead.
So the Restoration theater was inspired by French theater, as King Charles II. He loved French theater a lot, and the first thing he did when he came into power was open the theaters. Along with that, satire was a very common theme. It was a genre and also an element of theater in that era, and it criticized and gave a commentary on the basically what the social life was back then, and it was about the audience of the theater was were the aristocrats, and it was a place of social gathering of the aristocrats. So satire which the playwrights wrote were based on the audience and what the audience could connect with, but also in a satirical way, and made fun of it.
Yes, thank you, Narisha. So good. So these were a few things to remember from the Restoration era, and the Restoration theater as well. And then we also talked about comedy of manners, the genre, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
just, I've shared it in the screen. So just, go through the major points. Just want you to take a look at this major points, take a look at this characteristics. Everyone, just go through the points. Yes, Anand?
Ma'am, I have a question, like a confusion. The
Yes.
playwrights, were they satiring the aristocrat people or the normal people?
The aristocrats.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, I want all of you to, take 1 minute and read all these points, revise. Done. So
Yes, ma'am.
now those of you have the book. Mm, you all are supposed to have the book. I need you to open the book and go to um, Roman page number 26. Roman 26. This is before the act opens. Okay, go to page number 26. Here you have a small paragraph on comedy of manners and its characteristics, and then you have some examples in the next paragraph. So, how many of you have the book opened in front of you? Let me see your hands. Raise your hand. Okay, good. So, Tanvir,
Ma'am.
yes, Tanvir. Tanvir, can you read this paragraph, Comedy of Manners and its Characteristics?
Yes, ma'am. Uh, The comedy of manners deals with the relations and intrigues of gentlemen and ladies living in a high society. Romantic comedy has for its central theme a story of love and courtship ending in wedding. On the other hand, comedy of manners is primarily a social criticism. It aims at raising laughter, ridicule, or scorn against those who are exceptional either in their character or in their action. Its group in a particular setting. It is therefore essentially realistic. The characters of this comedy are taken from the speak or contemporary life and the belong to a familiar world. They speak the language of familiar conversations, which are mostly witty and very sharp. Shakespeare's Love, Labour, Lost, and Much Ado About Nothing are the earliest comedies of manners. Later on, this genre was perfected in the Restoration period. William Congreve's Way of the World is a brilliant example of Restoration comedy of manners. Oscar Wilde's importance of being earnest is a modern comedy of manners.
Thank you, Tanvir. So, so yes, this was a brief overview of on the comedy of manners. One thing to remember over here um, is this that in case of comedies, I mean general comedies, might happen that um, it is done without any purpose. It is done just for the sake of entertainment. But in case of comedy of manners, this is very important that comedy of manners is usually done to or for us for social criticism. So it includes social criticism. It primarily is a social criticism. So it not only raises laughter or it not only ridicules the character, but it also criticizes the people for their actions, criticizes the society for the actions. So, so this were the characteristics of comedy of manners, and now we will go to the character map. Um, okay, all of you can put your hands down now. Thank you. Um, so this is where we ended in the last class. We did not finish, but yeah, we started. So we started with Mirabelle and Millamant. Um, and we also talked about the setting. So what was the first setting in Act 1?
Ma'am, chocolate house.
Chocolate
And
house.
chocolate house.
A
Right.
conversation between Mirabelle and Mr. Fano.
Right. So the first act, I want you to open page number, say, this is page number 13. So this is page number 13. In page number 13, you can see Act 1, Scene 1, and then you have A Chocolate House. This is the setting. Mirabelle and Fainal rising from cards, that is, they were playing cards. So they're rising from cards, and Betty waiting. So Betty is a minor character. We do not have her in this character map. Um, she's a minor character. Betty, I'm writing it down in the chat box. Betty is the servant or the mistress of this chocolate house. So she's there to serve the young men who are here in this chocolate house. So we have Mirabelle and Fainal who are sitting, chatting, playing cards in this chocolate house. And then we also see that they're having conversation. And what's the topic of this conversation? The topic is about ladies, is about women. And these women are Mrs. Marwood, these women are Lady Wishford, then Millamant, then Mrs. Fainall. So these women, they had gathered just the other day, they had gathered together, they had some sort of kitty party. But in that gathering, Witwoud and Petulant, who were two minor characters, male characters, they were there, but Mirabelle was not there. So they're just talking about this thing. And then we have one important incident coming up in Act 1. This is in page number 18. See, a servant enters. So a servant enters this chocolate house, and the servant informs, this is in page number 19, see, line number 130 basically. So the servant informs that a marriage has taken place. And the servant says, "See, married and bedded, sir, I am witness." So the servant has or was a witness of a marriage. We do not yet know whose marriage was it or what was it, but this servant comes to Mirabelle and informs that the marriage has been taken place. And not only the marriage, the couple has also been bedded. So it reinforms or it strengthens the fact that they are now married. This couple is now married. So later on, we come to know that this marriage was basically the marriage between Foible and Waitwell. So see, we saw the two characters, Foible and Waitwell. Foible was the servant of Lady Wishford. So Foible was a female servant. Waitwell was the servant of Mirabelle. So Waitwell was a male servant. And here in Act 1, we do not get to know, but eventually we get to know that this marriage was also fixed by Mirabelle. So why also? Because in the last class, I told you that Mirabelle had fixed another marriage. What was that marriage? Between whom and whom?
Mr. and Mrs.
Trainer
Fee.
and
Right, Fainall and Mrs. Fainall, or Arabella, right?
Arabella. Yes,
So
ma'am.
right. So that was another marriage that Mirabelle fixes, and this is another one. So we know that Mirabelle is trying to get the support of Lady Wishford in order to marry Millamant. So, uh, just to get Millamant's hand, Mirabelle has been plotting and has been doing a lot of things. He's very clever. And one of this plot is at first, he gets rid of Arabella by setting her up with Fainall. So he gets rid of Arabella, and also he does not want to get married to a widow. So he gets rid of Arabella, and the second thing that he does is he marries off his servant with Lady Wishford's servant. So why does he do it? We will come to know later on. Um, then after the after the announcement of this marriage, very soon in Act 1, we see that the two characters, Witwoud and Petulant, they enter. So this is, say, in page number 25, you see enter Witwoud. So Witwoud and Petulant, they are minor characters. Their activities in the play apparently seem very silly, very funny, and does not have any gravity. Neither of these characters have gravity. Okay, but both these characters are very important characters for the play. So though they are minor characters, they play a very significant role, especially at the end of the play. Now a little bit about Witwoud and Petulant. So see one thing, in Act 1, we do not really get to know much about all the characters, but we get to know a little bit about Petulant. So this is interesting. First of all, take a look at the names, how they have been named by William Congreve. So, in case of wait well, we see that, he's a servant, he waits well, so his name is wait well. Then another servant, foible. Foible means basically weakness, lackings. So foible is the lady servant again. Her name is also does justice to what she is. And then in terms of witwoud, witwoud means someone who is devoid of any wit, or who does not have any wit. So witwoud is a character who does not have any wit. And then petulant, petulant means something that is very minor, something that's very insignificant. So petulant is once again a character who apparently seems very insignificant, who does not have any gravity. So these are the two characters that we see who enters this chocolate house right after, very soon in Act 1. Now, a little bit about Witwoud and Petulant. See, if we go to page number, um, let me just see. This is in page number 31. See, in page number 31, a coachman enters. So a coachman enters the chocolate house, and the coachman goes to Betty. So Betty was the mistress of the chocolate house, the waiter. So he goes to Betty and he asks that, is Master Petulant here, mistress? So basically the coachman is looking for Master Petulant. Betty says, yes. Then the coachman says, 3 gentlewomen in the coach would speak with him. So basically 3 women are waiting in the coach to talk to Petulant, and this coachman has come here with this message. Then see, after hearing this, Fainall says, oh, brave Petulant, 3. So it's like 3 women are, waiting to see you, which basically means that you're so important, that you're here. And 3 women, not all women could hire a coach. So all these 3 women, of course, maybe belongs to an aristocrat society as well, and they're here with coach just to speak to Petulant. So he's so important. So very soon, we come to know from Witwoud basically that this is a trick, a very common trick that Petulant plays. The trick is this that um, the trick is this that Petulant wishes people to see and realize that he has some importance in the society. So what Petulant does is he gives money, or he bribes the coachman, and he tells the coachman that at this time you come to the chocolate house and you look for me and you say that 3 women are waiting for me. So this is basically a lie. It is very pretentious. Petulant does it willingly, just to, increase his value in the market, just to show to people, as a show off, just to show to people that um, he is of great importance, or he is very important. That's it. So you see, Witwoud and Petulant, they have been friends for a long time, and Witwoud has weaknesses which Petulant is aware of. Petulant has weaknesses which Witwoud knows, and at times uh, they do reveal each other's weaknesses as well. So this is a little about Petulant, very pretentious, and his desire to be accepted, his desire to be or hold an important position in the aristocrat society. Then in terms of Witwoud, Witwoud, we see that Witwoud comes from, we get to know later that Witwoud comes from a rural countryside area. And after he comes here, he changes his lifestyle, he changes his fashion sense, he dresses up like the aristocrat, but in his behavior and in his activities, we get to know that, where we understand that no, he is also equally pretentious. Okay. So in this case, whenever I mean, now that I talk about petulant and the way he make people or discloses about his popularity among women to people, he seems to be like, the Zayed Khan of restoration era. It's almost like when we whenever I go to Facebook, I just keep on seeing these reels and this what interviews given by Zayed Khan, his popularity. So it's almost, petulant is no less. Petulant is so popular and he wants
And
to.
miss,
Yes, yes,
and
Samira.
his attitude was awesome, miss.
He's at it exactly. He's so confident. That confidence needs to come. So
Yes, miss.
this is very important over here. So petulant is, no less.
Yes,
Okay.
miss. Sometimes I wonder if I ever had that level of confidence, I would have a CG4 now.
You can brag, you
Goes
can
a long
always say to
way.
people who is going to check your certificate. Zotham, you can just go and say that, yeah, I have CG4. Who's going to check it? That's what, maybe, maybe, I do not know. I'm not quoting anyone, but maybe it seems like I get confused. How can women be so crazy about um, that man? Okay, anyways. So yeah, and then petulant, like one of these examples of petulant was, we have another character, the half brother of petulant, who is Sir Wilful Witwoud, as you can see in the character map. So Sir Wilful Witwoud comes to visit. He comes from the countryside, and when he comes, Witwoud, denies to recognize Sir Wilful Witwoud. That is, Witwoud is embarrassed. Witwoud does not want to reveal or does not want to acknowledge that he has a half brother who is as, what you can call, as cat as Sir Wilful Witwoud, because he belongs to the countryside. So he has no fashion sense, and now Witwoud is, very fashionable and everything. So just the gist of it is Witwoud and Petulant, they're very pretentious. They do not belong to this society, but they are trying their level best to be accepted. So they're doing whatever they can. They're taking up false means. They are pretending. They're doing whatever they can to be a part of this society. And then they also appear to be drunk in some of the important parts of the play. We see that these two are drunk. They're not in their senses. They forget what they have done. They do not even realize the importance of what's going on around them. And they both are in love. Well, yeah, technically in love with Millamant. So they both are suitors of Millamant. So Millamant is our heroine, who is single, who is beautiful, and she's planning to get married. So Witwoud and Petulant, they both want the hands of Millamant. So they both are in competition who can win Millamant. And then Sir Wilful Witwoud, who comes from the rural countryside, Sir Wilful Witwoud also wants to marry Millamant. So, as I mentioned in the last class, that in this play we will see that all the female characters are in love with Mirabel, except for Foible. So, except for the servant, all the female characters are in love with Mirabel. And on the other hand, apart from Waitwell and Fainal, all the male characters are in love with Millamant. So, they both have competitions. They are. Uh, so they are very their demand in the market, in the marriage market, basically, is very high, of both Mirabel and Millamant. Now, coming to Lady Wishfort, this is important over here. So why the thing to remember, or the thing to know, basically, what we will come to know later on is the reason why Lady Wishford does not approve of Mirabelle. Now, Mirabelle, since he wanted to marry Millamant, so Mirabelle was trying to be on the good side of Lady Wishford. So Mirabelle was trying to, flatter Lady Wishford. Mirabelle was trying to compliment Lady Wishford, and whenever he got a scope, he would try to, reach out to Lady Wishford. So when Mirabelle was doing so, when Mirabelle was trying to convince Lady Wishford got a wrong idea. Lady Wishford thought that Mirabelle was interested in her, because Lady Wishford, though she's old, she is single now, and she has a lot of money, so she wants to get married. And then she sees that someone as young and as handsome, as eligible as Mirabelle is showing so much interest on Lady Wishford. Lady Wishford misinterprets it. Lady Wishford thinks that Mirabelle is in love with Lady Wishford, and eventually Lady Wishford starts to fall in love with Mirabelle. So here another red arrow is missing. So Lady Wishford's one red arrow, which later on converts though, goes to Mirabelle as well. So as I told you that all the female characters apart from Foible are in love with Mirabelle. So even Lady Wishford. So you see, Lady Wishford is basically the mother of Mirabelle's ex, that is Arabella, since Mirabelle was dating Arabella. And then Lady Wishford is the aunt of Mirabelle's, um, you know, fiance over here, Millamant. And Lady Wishford herself falls in love with Mirabelle. So Lady Wishford, because of this, Lady Wishford, what happens is Mrs. Marwood was a friend of Lady Wishford. Mrs. Marwood is the person who discloses this truth to Lady Wishford, that Mirabelle is tricking you, Mirabelle is not interested in you, Mirabelle is trying to be on your good side because he wants to marry Millamant. So when Lady Wishford understands this, Lady Wishford becomes very furious, and she does not, I mean, in no way she is going to approve Mirabelle's marriage with Millamant. So this is why Lady Wishford did not want this marriage to take place. So now Mirabelle needs to find a way out. Mirabelle is trying to see what can be done. So the first thing that he does is, gets rid of Arabella, so that is gone. The second thing that he does is he um, weds Foible with Waitwell. That is what we see in Act 1. But we don't get to come, I mean, we do not get to see the names of the characters, but we know that a marriage has taken place. Then what he is planning is basically he's going to use Waitwell, that is, he's going to use his servant, and he's going to make Waitwell disguise as Sir Roland. So this is the character that you have in bracket right below Waitwell, Sir Roland. So Mirabelle will make Waitwell dress up and disguise himself as Sir Roland. And Sir Roland was the name of one of Mirabelle's uncle. And you can understand that the name has Sir in front. So, that person also belongs to an aristocrat society and has a value in the society. So he was technically an uncle of Mirabelle, but he does not come in the play. Rather, Waitwell is disguised as Sir Roland, and Sir Roland is going to give a marriage proposal to Lady Wishford. Since Lady Wishford wants to get married, so Sir Roland is going to be the suitor of Lady Wishford, but we do understand that this is not the Sir Roland in real life. This is Waitwell disguised as Sir Roland. Now, why does Mirabelle, plan this entire thing? is because if Waitwell is married to Foible, that is, they're legally wedded, in that case, Waitwell, even if he disguises as Sir Roland, he cannot legally marry Lady Wishford. So this is interesting. Back in those times, if you had a husband or wife, or if you were married, if you are not divorced or widowed, then you cannot marry again. So Waitwell, since he is already married to Foible, even if he wishes to marry Lady Wishford, he can wish so because he's a servant, he does not have money. Lady Wishford has a lot of money. So of course for money, you know, he can end up marry Lady Wishford. But now since Waitwell is married to Foible, Waitwell cannot marry Lady Wishford. But what Waitwell does is Waitwell disguises as Sir Roland, and we see that Lady Wishford eventually falls in love with Sir Roland. That is, Lady Wishford basically falls in love with a servant. So this is a plot that Mirabelle uses to blackmail Lady Wishford. This is one of the plots, and then we have other plots as well, which ends up. I mean, at the end, we see that Lady Wishford is in such a state that she has no other option but to marry Millamant. To approve the marriage between Mirabelle and Millamant. So this situation comes over here. So another thing to remember is about Arabella. Arabella, we see that Arabella and Fainal, they are married to each other, but their marriage is not out of love. Rather, it is more like a social contract. It's more like it's for a social recognition that she's not a widow anymore. She has a husband, and Fainal agreed to marry Arabella because of her money. Because Fainal was in love with Mrs. Marwood. Okay, one thing to remember over here, if you have the Friends Classic, which I believe you do, because I got the new version. Over here, you will see that instead of Miss Marwood, in most of the cases, it is Mrs. Marwood. Okay, Anand, is there any particular meaning for Betty? Well, not exactly, because Betty over here is a very minor character. We do not really see much, um, mm, you know, that importance in terms of Betty. But then again, you can guess, like, this particular type of names are given to the mistresses, are given to the servants. You would not give these names to someone who belongs to an aristocrat society. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Now, in case of Mrs. Marwood, we do not have a Mr. Marwood, and where you have the name as Mrs. Marwood, remember that back in those time, Mrs. was more like a title, and it does not have to be that that lady is married. It might happen that that lady is single, but then again, that particular title, Mrs., is given. It's more like out of respect. So we know that Miss Marwood was a friend of Lady Wishford. So Miss Marwood was not as young as Millamant or as Arabella. So Miss Marwood was probably in her 40s. We do not have her exact age, but we can guess that she was a little aged, and she was elder than Millamant, older than Millamant or Fainal, Mrs. Fainal. So Fainal was in love with Mrs. Marwood, but Mrs. Marwood was in love with Mirabelle. So of course, Mrs. Marwood did not want Mirabelle to get married to Millamant. So the villainly activities of this, comedy come out from Mrs. Marwood and Fainal, basically. So they again plot against Mirabelle. It's mostly because Fainal has a an invisible tension with Mirabelle, because we will see that there is a tension of masculinity between these two male characters. Fainal is always trying to be in competition with Mirabelle. And then here, this is again very interesting, how Congreve portrays the other male characters of the play. So, in opposition to Mirabelle, you have someone like Fainal, who is involved in villainly activities later on. And then you have characters like Witwoud and Petulant. So when you have characters who act so foolishly or who act so villainly, it ultimately uh, uplifts the position of the main character or the character who is in a positive side. So this the other male characters like Fainal, Witwoud, Petulant, they contrast Mirabelle in such a way that Mirabelle's position is uplifted. He becomes a stronger, hero of this comedy. Yes, Sidratul?
Ma'am, why did Marwood get the title Mrs. and Millaman didn't? Like, was this title given to the women who were powerful or rich in that sense?
No, we do not really have any reference to that, not powerful or rich. And as I mentioned, it is in some of the versions, like this character map that I collected, it has Miss Marwood. In some of the versions of William Congreve, you will see that it is Miss Marwood. But in some other versions, there are Mrs. Marwood. So it's not exactly for that. It might happen because of age, because of the age. So it does not have to do with marriage. And of course, status is an important thing over here. Like you do not have Miss Foible, right? Or you do not have Miss Betty. And then you'll have another character called Peg, another servant of Lady Wishford. Lady Wishford had multiple servants. So one servant is Foible, another is Peg. So you do not have Miss or Mrs. in front of them. Even when Foible gets married to Waitwell, we do not have Mrs. It's just Foible. So having that title Miss or Mrs., that was just to just as a representation of the society that they belong to. And in case of Marwood, as I said, like we do not really have a clear implication of why do we have her as Mrs. Marwood in some of the places, but you can guess that maybe it was because of her age since she was a little senior. And then you have words like Sir. So Sir, you have when it is when they're more senior and in terms of age mostly, and then lady as well, when they're in terms of age when they're even more senior. Okay. So in act 1, let's see, in act 1 the entire thing is uh, happening in the chocolate house. So everything is happening in the chocolate house, and in act 1 we are basically introduced to all these major male characters in the chocolate house. But when they're gossiping, they're also talking about the female characters. So in the chocolate house, we basically in person we have the physical appearance of Mirabelle, Fainal, Witwoud, and Petulant. Okay, four of these major male characters. In Act 2, the setting shifts to St. James Park. So you can remember that St. James Park was also another fashionable setting, and this is in this park where we come to see the female characters in person. So at first we have Mrs. Fainal and then we have Mrs. Marwood. So Mrs. Fainal and Mrs. Marwood, they're here in this park, and they're having a conversation. But take a look at the interesting thing. Both these characters or both these female characters are tied with one male character, which is Fainal. So Mrs. Fainal is married to Fainal, but Mrs. Marwood is the person whom Fainal loves. So, they are on the same plane. And interestingly, they're having a conversation about men. They're having conversation about love, about marriage, like what do men want? What is love? What is marriage? And they're having this conversation. So it is, very fake. It is very fake because Mrs. Fainal knows that Fainal is in love with Miss Marwood. And Miss Marwood also knows that what he's doing with Fainal is an extramarital affair. So everyone knows what's going on, but they're very pretentious. They're still having a conversation. They're pretending that they do not know, and they are in a very good condition, everything's perfect. So this is what happens, or this is what we see from the conversation between Mrs. Fainall and Mrs. Marwood as well. Okay. Then we also see that Fainall enters while Mrs. Marwood and Mrs. Fainall, they're having a conversation. Mr. Fainall also enters, and Mr. Fainall has a conversation with Mrs. Fainall. And then we see that, while they're having a conversation, it seems like they're in a very perfect marriage. Like, see, this is in page number 45. See, enter Fainall and Mirabel. Mrs. Marwood says, ha ha ha, he comes opportunely for you. So Mrs. Marwood is saying this to Mrs. Fainall. Mrs. Fainall says, for you, for he has brought Mirabel with him. Uh, so, they're teasing each other. Mrs. Marwood says that your husband is here for you. And then Mrs. Fainall says that no, he's here for you because he has brought Mirabel. So everyone knows who is having an affair with whom. So Mrs. Fainall also knows that Mrs. Marwood is in love with Mirabel. Okay. Then in Act 2, we also have Millamant entering. And Mirabel and Millamant has a conversation, and we also get to know from here that they both are in love with each other, and what are they going to do? What are their plans? How will they overcome this situation? And the fact that they're planning to get married, all these things, we get to know over here. So say this conversation between Milament and um, Mirabel, you can see it in page number 61. They're having a conversation, and then suddenly, see in page number 62, um, Whitwood says, see, Whitwood says this to Milament, very pretty. Why, you make no more of making of lovers, madam, than of making so many card matches. So Whitwood and Petulant, they are so, I mean, they keep on flirting with Milament throughout the entire play, but they're so naked about their desire that it's almost very repulsive. So it's not impulsive. They really do not attract. Rather, they appear to be very repulsive because of their so direct, approach to Milament, and how they're so naked about what they want. Um, the last part of this act, this is very important. This is in page number 70. Go to page number 70. Here you will find a dialogue by Waitwell. So I'll read this out. See, it says, why, sir, it will be impossible. I should remember myself, married, knighted, and attended, all in one day. So this is the important line. Married, let me write it in the chat box. Married, uh, knighted, and attended, all in one day. So this is a dialogue by Waitwell. Waitwell, and this is, where we come to know a little about the plot of Mirabel. Because at first he is married, I mean, Waitwell is married to Foible. This was done by Mirabel. The second thing that happens is he's knighted. It's knighted why? Because he has now been named Sir Roland. He's going to disguise as Sir Roland. So it's knighthood. When you have the title Sir, it's giving you knighthood. So he's knighted, and now he's attended. So everything happens all at once. So right after this, we will see that when Act 3 starts, from Act 3, it's going to be at Lady Wishfort's house, inside Lady Wishfort's house. And Lady Wishfort is very excited. Lady Wishfort is excited because she is awaiting the arrival of Sir Roland. So Sir Roland um, will arrive because he's going to make a proposal to Lady Wishfort for marriage. So Lady Wishfort is very excited, and uh, then he will Lady Wishford will see that she's busy in doing makeup, she's busy in preparing herself for Sir Roland. And again, this is also very pretentious because she tries heart and soul to hide her age. She tries heart and soul to look beautiful. That is all that matters. Okay. Uh, so let's end it here for today. We will start from Act 3. Oh, another thing why this dialogue is important is because this also reveals about একটু আস্তে। This also reveals about the master servant relationship, how Mirabelle is in control of everything. Mirabelle not only controls who Waitwell is going to marry, Mirabelle also controls Waitwell's identity. So here Waitwell loses his identity. And okay, Nuresh asks what is attended. So attended is like since now he is Sir Roland, so he's going to be attended by people. He's going to be respected by people. And then when we will see that he's going to go to Lady Wishford, we'll see that a lot of arrangements are being done for him, so that falls under attended. Ikra.
Ma'am, we have a little request about the submission of theater assignment. Is it possible to extend at least one more day?
Oh my god, you got more than a month for this task. If you have
Ma'am,
not been able to
please,
complete it,
ma'am.
Ma'am, please, ma'am.
if you have not been able to complete it in 1 month, how can you complete it in 1 day?
Ma'am,
It's
please,
only one
ma'am.
day.
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
please,
we are
ma'am.
working on this, but it would be
Please,
better if you
ma'am.
extend one more day, ma'am. Please consider this.
Why now? This is really late.
Please, ma'am.
It's only one day.
Only 1 day is not the fact. The fact is this, that this is a deadline, right?
Ma'am, we are really sorry about it, but the thing is, we had our midterms, right? And yeah, we know that you gave us one entire month, and we are really, really sorry that we could not finish it within these days. But this one day will mean a lot for us. So could you please extend one day?
Okay, I've changed the deadline in Turnitin. I just changed it. I changed it for both the sections because if I give it to you and if I don't give it to section 1, that's not going to look good. So I had to change it for both the sections. I changed the deadline in Turnitin, so it's now 16. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Miss.
Thank you, miss.
Thank you, miss.
Thanks a lot, miss.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
You
Okay,
change it
okay.
in Google Classroom as well.
Yeah, I'll change it in Google Classroom. But your first submission is in Turnitin, so I just
Mm.
changed in Turnitin. Okay, so you have it on 16th now. That's tomorrow. Okay. uh, Let me change it in Google Classroom to
Ma'am, when is the deadline for the presentation?
I'll give you the deadline in the next week. Okay. It's going to be, I mean, not the deadline, it's going to be your presentation day basically. So your presentation day will be, I think you'll get around 10 days for preparation. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I've extended the deadline by 1 day, and so you have one more day to submit your report.
Ma-
Fine, I'm taking the attendance now.
Ma'am, in case of the presentation topic, like, should we
Mhm.
have to confirm with you about it, like email you or something?
Yeah, I'll give you a sign up sheet.
Okay, ma'am.
Imdad Hussain,
Present, ma'am.